Now it's working. What's up? What's up, everybody? On these streams, we'll set it up on Instagram too, so they can benefit from the breathing wisdom. Johnny Freedom, looking good. Hey. All right. Dang, the Donald Trump convention. That's so cool. So let me switch out this link in the bio. I should play some music for you guys. Let's see if this song will play. All right, listen up, check it out. It's loud enough. All right, whatever. Okay, let me finish what I'm doing. It won't play while I'm streaming. Releasing stress. Update title. Go. Live. You're live now. What's up, Instagram? Now, the problem is if I hold it like this, it covers the mic. So that is a problem. Welcome. This is Releasing Stress Through Breath stream right before yoga. Every week I teach yoga here at the extraordinary IMC Warrior Arts and Fitness Center. And so I'll teach you a little bit about breath right now. That's how we start. Skip ahead if we're waiting for you to join. That's when I'll begin. Hopefully that doesn't block the mic. Right there. Right there. $6,300 subscribers. Nice. Just checking the live. It's amazing. Technology is amazing. Okay. What's up, everybody? Talking about the breathing. Breathing, very important. It's something that's difficult to convey when we're just teaching yoga class. I could have like a lapel mic real close to my nose and you would hear the quality of the breathing throughout the class. It's amazing too, because my nose is kind of crooked, especially recently because of jiu-jitsu. I got like kicked in the face. Guy was trying to spin around. Oh, just came out of nowhere. I didn't see it. Right in the nose. Smashed it over. So I pushed it back, but it doesn't quite breathe the same way. So if I could change one thing about myself, I would get a nose surgery. But then I wouldn't be able to grapple for a long time. And then I'd be all nervous about it because it'd be all sensitive. I'd have to tap it with metal to like make it firm again. You know how like martial artists tap their bones to make it hard? I'd be tapping my nose. So maybe when I'm older and if I ever stop grappling, then I'll do nose surgery so I can breathe better. But it's amazing when I do yoga, all of a sudden I can breathe better. So there's a lot of muscles in the side of in the cheeks and the side of the nose and that, and then there's the skin. It's very sensitive to different things. So it may swell or deswell because like inflame, different pollens and things that you may react to, smells, even just reactions in your mind, and it is in your mind. I remember once I was teaching in Lake Tahoe and I had a stuffy nose. And I literally practiced one of my old techniques was to look at the body part and talk to it. So I started talking to my nose. I was really focused in my concentration. I wasn't like squinting, but I was really tapped into the sensations in my nose. And I was like looking at it with my consciousness. And then I started talking to my nose. Gently, I had a certain speech pattern that I worked and my nose started going down. I was like, this is a trip. How much of it is psychosomatic, really, that we're creating our ailments, our sorenesses. But then there's also like legit soreness. Like I get done with like grappling and I have like hella tension. I have a live audience. I didn't realize. So anyway, it's a difficult thing to teach breathing. People are very stubborn to learn breathing. Very interesting because you're a Bikram practitioner and they're the worst breathers in all of the world. Worst breathers, terrible breathers. And occasionally you'll get someone like me that comes in from like another style of yoga and they quickly fuck up. because if you try to breathe like with Ujjayi breath or like with full intense breathing like you would in any other kind of yoga in a 105-degree room with a bunch of humidity, dude, your heart is about to explode in your chest and you're going to bleed out of your eyeballs. Like, you have to be able to effortlessly breathe fully. And you have to be able to, why? Because the effort in breathing will heat you up. So you can't do that in a hot room. Now, if you're in the cold, there's also a different experience that if you go like Wim Hof, if you try to breathe in the cold, there's a way to breathe that heats you up. That's not so, it doesn't take so much effort, but there's like an internal friction that you get to be in tune with. Not to mention all your blood vessels and everything. Your blood vessels are lined with muscles, and those muscles can become weak or strong. They can become rigid or loose. They're just like muscles, but they're tubes that go around the tubular muscles called smooth muscle. And so most people, like we just had some kids come into the martial arts center. They're totally numb to the world because they're in video games all day. They don't even see what's happening because they're literally looking at the video game in their mind. Most people, their bodies are not reacting to nature and temperatures because we're in a controlled environment all day. And our blood vessels don't have to react so fast. And you got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of blood vessels in you. And so maybe some of them are, if you're more outdoorsy than not, but you're not a natural person like your system had evolved to be in. So you're not reacting appropriately. So then extreme temperatures affect you much more. And but training in those temperatures affects things, and it has a similar effect to breathing. Breathing does all the same. You can induce all of the vasodilation and vasoconstriction, the dilation, expanding, or the constriction, the tightening of your blood vessels through breathing by holding your breath for a long time or by hyperventilating really fast or any subtle combination in between like nostril breathing or counted breathing or any kind of breathing technique ultimately is affecting your blood vessels, and that's affecting so much in your nervous system, especially your brain, and then other parts, liver, lungs, heart, like everything, your whole system, and all sorts of things. And at the more subtle end of things, breathing, as you practice slow or conscious breathing, you will start to notice the interwovenness, the interconnectedness of thoughts and breathing. That certain thoughts change your breathing, other thoughts change your breathing a different way. Like basically, any thought changes your breathing. You can often see when someone has a thought because they'll take a breath or something like that. Or you'll hold your breath on a thought. Thoughts and breathing is so you start to reverse hack your thinking through breathing. The problem is that when you're doing slow, controlled breathing, you're practicing breathing on your own, is you are kind of isolated from the world. So you have a tendency to kind of like dive into the rabbit hole of your thoughts versus doing something to resolve it. But that's, that's just one of the difficulties of a solitary yoga practice. That's one of the drawbacks, obstacles to it. And that's why yoga practice and the way it was practiced in the ancient world is not suited for modern living unless you're going to go to an ancient way of living, like go and live in the jungle or the mountains or something. Like, if you're going to live in society, you need a different kind of yoga practice. You can still do seated breathing, but it has to be really well-rounded with other things, especially socializing and whatever. Now, awareness gained through a seated breathing practice will change how you practice postures. Posture practice, so much about releasing tension so that blood and air, because that's what carries your air. Air, you don't breathe into your belly, you don't breathe into your neck, you can't breathe into anything else besides your lungs and throat. But the air goes everywhere. How? Through your blood vessels. The blood carries. So when I say tension, when you release tension, blood can flow through the muscle. Tension inhibits blood flow. That's also inhibiting airflow. The air is not getting to the parts of your body. All kinds of effects of that, including soreness, stiffness, and then different things dealing with your chemistry, your bones, and all sorts of things. Because it's over time. You think it's just a little bit, and it is. It's just a little bit of tension. It's a little bit of loss of air. It's just a little bit. But you breathe 21,000 times a day. So just a little bit accumulates. And then how many thousands of days you've been alive? If you haven't changed your breathing pattern, that's like so many thousands of it. It's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of breaths that you've taken and just a little bit off under breathing or not breathing fully so that the system, maybe parts of your body have stagnated flow, and that's affecting muscle recovery, bone density, it's chemistry. It's the chemistry of the body. So, and it's really cool. It's a testament to you as a spirit, because your bones may change, but not you. I mean, you change over time, but like, just because the bones change, if you got your limb cut off, you're still you. You could say, well, what if you lose your brain? Are you still you? Well, that seems to be like the receiver of consciousness. You remove the brain, and there's consciousness maybe in inanimate objects or whatever, but it's just that level of consciousness is so low. I mean, that's like the static electricity. Not even. It's like the little static electricity from walking on a carpet compared to a lightning bolt. It's like, okay, they're all electricity, but consciousness of a rock is not compared to the consciousness of even a plant, let alone an animal, let alone a higher animal, let alone humans, let alone keep going. So, but it is all consciousness. But it's just amazing when you see and observe your blood flowing, your air flowing. You see it go into different parts of your body that were tense, that then when they receive the flow of air and blood, they feel alive again. You're like, man, that's when I know these things because I've been on the other side of it. I came from tension into more looseness. And then over the years, there's all kinds of periods where you get tense again, then loosen up, tense, loosen up. You don't realize you've stopped your breathing practice for a while, then you breathe a little bit. Whoa, you get this flush of blood through tense muscles. And then you see that was having an influence on your consciousness. The tension was the lack of blood flow, because the looseness and the blood flowing affect your consciousness. If one affected, the other did too. If good blood circulation, enhances your mindset, then low circulation also affected your mindset in the other way. And that's how you even notice it, because you start breathing well, blood is flowing well, you feel better, and you're like, man, I was living the other way. How long? That's what happens when you start getting into yoga and really practicing. It's hard when you practice at the studio, no matter what style, because there's so many distractions, other people, and who knows, lights, maybe music, the teacher. It's useful, it's needed to some extent. I didn't completely learn yoga outside of a studio. I went to studios. I've been to a lot of classes. I practice much more without classes, and that's where you really make it your own. It's where you really explore. It'd be like that in anything, whatever you're doing. If you only ever played music in the band, and the conductor or teacher or whatever teaching you, and you had sheet music, and you have to practice on your own to make it your own. And then even then, if you're only practicing sheet music and the songs, whatever they're giving you, there's a difference between doing that and letting it go and playing from memory. And eventually, if you just do that, you'll stumble on some improvisations, and a whole new reality will open up to you where you can improvise off of that stuff. And then you really start to know and understand music. But if you only ever improvise, you may not understand the intricacies of proper pick placement or finger placement to make the quality of the sound better. You may go over that too fast and not correct yourself. So there's proper instruction that helps you with the real nuts and bolts of the activity. And then there's the improvisation that makes it your own, and you become an artist of it. And so this is why I teach the way I do in my online class, 9 Form Yoga Online, Saturdays and Sundays. I'm about to do it right now in like 10, 15 minutes. And the idea of how I go through the postures that I do, which is not comprehensive of yoga, it's what I do for myself. And you always have the ability to study, other people, other postures. There's lots out there. I can't vouch for that. There's lots of little gold nuggets. Almost any teacher, any teacher worth anything that has even 1,000 followers or more on YouTube or other platforms, they have something. There's a reason. They may just be a pretty face or whatever, but they probably have 1 or 2 good postures in their sequence at least. It may be misplaced. It may not be held in a balanced amount of time, left and right. They may give wrong cues in some, but there's some gold nuggets to be found everywhere. Some teachers have more gold nuggets and less bad nuggets. But the idea, so you could study anything and pick up whatever you can pick up. I'm teaching how to balance from my level of mobility and where I'm at in body awareness. So I do give some beginner stuff and build up from that. I can't go beyond what I'm able to do. I could give advice or whatever. And the principles will be similar as you move on into more mobility beyond my mobility, or abilities beyond my, because ultimately the ability is not the physical ability, it's the mental ability behind the physical practice that has the state of mind and the equanimity of thinking to not push too hard, to understand basic body mechanics, forward, back, left, right, twisting left and right, side bending. Like there's only so many motions. To understand the mentality of practice and how mind relates with body and breath and what to do about certain situations. Not to mention that the poses that I am able to do, I have built from foundations from so many, workshops taught or whatever in a competitive workshop environment, traveling the US, people didn't know me. I had to really convey a lot of authority and have a good system that worked. And, and especially with like inversions and hand balancing and whatever, that's, it was a popular course, but the complaints that I heard about other instructors, famous instructors, so much was that they overtrained. They trained their students too hard. They were sore. They didn't want to keep up with the practice. And it's a balance because you teach people slow enough that they don't get hurt and they get bored. And then they don't practice also. So it's difficult to teach to groups like that. And that's going to be the same case with online yoga. If somebody joins, they don't know anything about yoga. Well, I have a bunch of recordings, ask questions, come to class now, I'll teach one or two things at the most beginner level, but then I also have more advanced students that they need to stay entertained also. And it is an entertainment value of your yoga practice is essential for you to keep up with it. You got to be interested in it. That's where eventually you seek out other things. Like I sought out handstands from gymnasts and handstand training and, different styles, yoga synergy, Simon Borg Oliver, or however you say his name, really good stuff, shadow yoga and whatever else. And then all of the other interviews with yogis and learning stuff from there. And there's probably so much that I haven't gotten into, books and modern interviews and things that you could really get into that stuff. Their lifestyle, I didn't admire. I like always practicing yoga and making money living yoga. If you could make your money doing yoga, teaching yoga, being about yoga, start a yoga retreat center. I mean, it's all yoga. That's cool, man. But it will come down to how you treat people, how you treat men and women in your life, and that the way that those teachers do that from what I'd observed. And I tried several different teachers and I got close enough to observe, and it's just not impressive. I had more impressive examples of living, of equanimity in living, good discernment, clear seeing in living and relating with the opposite sex, of course. And, so different people master different things. I know things about the body, wellness, and, health, and that stuff that the other mentors that I've had in life that are so good socially and relating and communicating, whatever, they don't have. So I bring this. And then, but the yoga teachers and the wellness coaches and whatever, they don't have a social awareness. And so this is what I mean about breathing will make you aware of your mindset. But if you only ever practice just like sitting and breathing, you need other practices. That's where, in my group, I encourage making videos, expressing yourself, getting in communication with your environment, adding value to any kind of line of communication. You're ultimately selling them on something. Even if you're not selling them something financially, you might sell them on an idea to come and do this or do that. Participate with something with you. Like you're selling a way of being yourself. You're selling yourself. And yoga practice alone doesn't give you those skills to do those idea exchanges. So you need the mental tech and all of that. And it took me getting into the physical stuff to get to the mental stuff, but I offer plenty of mental stuff, lots on the YouTube channel and how to get involved with that. But with the breathing, it's difficult to teach the breathing of the posture flow because you think you have it until you practice in person, or I'm able to hear you, or someone that knows what they're doing is able to hear how you breathe with your movement. It should be audible, but not too strained. But you can hear it and feel it. You feel the flow of your breath while you're going through the movements. You encourage the breath to be a little bit bigger, but without straining. So a little bit emptier, but not much. Just make sure there's emptiness. You empty. That's why it's helpful to breathe out as you compress yourself, as you're forward folding or some kind of real deep compression. As you compress yourself, that's when you exhale and you get a more full exhale. When you extend yourself, it's useful to inhale. Inhales already extend you. So that kind of back bend or open chest, open arm, kind of any expanding movement, it's useful to inhale with that. And as you exhale, compress and inhale and open, and exhale and inhale, you're pumping the blood with the air, with your breath. The breath and the air is like the same thing. And that's pushing it to the furthest reaches, deep in your tissues, and you're getting it. And combined with the stretching, the movement that's actually elongating and stretching and wringing out muscles and relaxing them so that blood flows back into them. Combining all of this with your breathing is the potency of the yoga practice. Now, the hot yoga, you have to even pull back more on the exertion of breathing. And it's even more vital that you breathe with your diaphragm versus breathing with other muscles. You can get away with in room temperature yoga. And it is useful to breathe with other muscles. You don't always have to breathe with your diaphragm, but it's just that's people are weakest at that. And they're not good at coordinating which muscles they're using to breathe. And I'm not as masterful as I used to be, but this practice does that. Hey, student over there. Hey, so let's see. So learning to encourage the breath to be a little bigger at the inhale and the exhale, how to keep the breath in a continuous flow. It doesn't block up as you're moving. You don't, occasionally, it happens, but that's you work through that. You learn to not strain in your breathing and let the practice of yoga breathing, yoga practice, posture practice, it's kind of like you're a canoe on the river of your breath, and you never get stopped anywhere. You keep moving, even if the body is not moving, even if you're holding a pose stationary, the breathing is continuous. And by the end of the practice, you're totally hypnotized into, a great rhythm of breathing. And, there may be some effort along the way, but when you stop at the end and you lay in Shavasana and you let go of your effort of breathing, you'll realize that you've really stretched your range. Your breath will move much more freely in this pocket. They call it, I used to know this term. Basically, there is a range of your lungs to expand or shrink, not even contract, but like there's a range of air, it's small, let's say like 150 milliliters or something, that you can breathe and it's kind of sipping and your chest doesn't expand, your belly doesn't expand. It's just there's like a little bit of room in your torso that the lung can inhale and exhale just a little bit. And you'll find that you kind of breathe like that in Shavasana after a real thorough yoga practice. Not the muscle exertion, the thoroughness of the yoga practice is how deeply you've penetrated your tissues with your breath in an equal and balanced way. If you overexerted yourself, then when you lay down in Shavasana, your muscles will consume all the air because they'll be hungry for air. So if you learn to practice yoga without exerting yourself, then when you finish, you may still be exhausted physically because you're flirting with the edge of what's the maximal motion I can do with the minimal effort. That's still some kind of effort. It's a mental effort. So it's like when I do a handstand, I'm still looking for, it's a hard posture, but I'm looking to minimize the effort, but still do the pose. So when you do that, you start increasing your endurance for how long you can do yoga because you're minimizing effort, but then you start adding on poses because you're like, I could do more, I could do more, I could do more. So at the end of the yoga practice, you're equally exhausted, whether you do a lot in a little bit of time or a little bit for a long time, you're still exhausted at the end. Then you lay down for Shavasana when you're exhausted. And if your muscles aren't starving for air, you're able to kind of live and exist laying on your back. You're able to live and exist in this, I wish I could remember the term for it, but this kind of like passive range of lung movement that the air just kind of flows in and out, but you can't even tell that you're breathing. You're at this like stationary breath. And you'll be able to last there for several minutes. Eventually, you'll take what I call a deep sigh. You'll go while you're laying on your back. That's your body needing to breathe because you've been shallow breathing for a few minutes. But you were able to exist in that shallow breathing because you had well oxygenated your whole body so well, it's redundant, but you've oxygenated your body so well through the good yoga practice that you're able to experience a kind of Shavasana laying on your back. You're able to experience a few minutes of essentially no breathing. What they call Kevala Kumbhaka, which is like a halting, involuntary halting of your breath. It's not a complete halting because you're still sipping air, but it's very close. It's as close as most normal humans are going to get. And that when you have a good, and remember all this that I just built up, I talked about full breaths during the postures. Yeah, automatic breathing is automatic, but like there's a word, a terminology. I have to look in the textbook for it again. I forget what it's called. It's in physiology, kinesiology or something, physical therapy. They have a term for this. So, and it's a specific term. It's not like stasis or static breath or anything. It's like a jargon term. So if you do these other things I've said, where you stretched the breath just a little bit, like 0.1%. 0.1% over 1,000 breaths accumulates into like twice the breath range. So a little bit extra inhale, slightly, a little bit extra exhale, slightly. Then the continuous stream of inhale, exhale, where you're not getting stopped up in some places. Easy enough to do when you're sitting still, although you get bored. Difficult to do when you're going through posture practice. That is the breathing practice of the stretching practice. The stretching in yoga, the stretching practice is a breathing practice. And that's why I'm saying it's a continuous stream, a canoe on the stream. The practice, postures will stop and start. Like in yoga class I'm about to teach, we'll stop, I'll explain something, we'll start again, stop, start, start, stop. The practice is consciously breathing the whole practice. Difficult to do when I'm stopping and explaining something and how you're not going to breathe as completely. That's why, you know, when I'm listening to lecture, a lot of times I'm balancing on my butt and like doing stuff like this. I'm still doing my yoga. And then we go into the next posture. And then if you learn to exert yourself efficiently, so for the maximal effect, minimal effort, that's the part of it, that's the art of it that you learn when you learn the yoga for yourself and practice on your own. Where I started this talk and I was like, it's one thing to learn sheet music and learn the music and you can play the sheet music so well. It's another thing when you stop playing the sheet music and you just start playing from memory. Eventually you improvise something, you integrate it, you make it your own. That's where you learn the minimal effort, maximum output, the optimal output. And that's where you get a real thorough practice, where you'll get more out of Shavasana. In that Shavasana experience of when you do all those other things, you get the best Shavasana experience of Kavala Kumbhaka, this halted breathing, involuntary halted breathing. And you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes of alert consciousness, clear consciousness, relaxing. Your body's exhausted. I almost said exalted. You have exalted it, exhausted it. Tension's gone, blood is flowing, your brain is cleared out. Your breath, there's no effort with it. There's no movement with it even. So it only takes a couple minutes because you're in a trance because you just focused on your breathing for like however long you were practicing yoga. So you're in a trance. You lay down, you let go of the breathing. You're in a trance. Your body's totally relaxed. Eventually, you just kind of let go of ego. You let go of small thinking, and you're just observing. Because if you were breathing, or you had to keep breathing, it would distract your consciousness from just a clear, present alertness. And so that state of Kavala Kumbhaka and the presence and the quality of consciousness, what you become aware of, is that yogic experience that above other things is what I'm teaching in the online yoga class. Is all the methods of how to do this, and the principles of stretching and you know, reminders about your body, because there's lots of little things that I teach about, you know, just like if I had just made you aware of anything, I'll make these people aware of a lot more in the physical yoga class. So I don't have a webpage up for it now, but there's a bit.ly link. You know, eventually I'll get my apprentice to put it on the website. Ninth Limb Yoga, you could always check the website and see all the products and things there. And this is a class that, you know, the price is about to go up, so you get it twice a week, every week. It's about 30-minute class on Zoom, guys and girls, and 2 different Zoom links for the guys and girls. For the girls, everybody can put on their camera and I can give you corrections for what I see. And then you learn to practice twice a week. So you have 5 other days to do whatever you want with it and make it your own. And you'll start to have profound clear-sightedness in your own life. And it creates an environment for change. Good yoga practice creates the environment inside, the inner environment physically, and leading into mentally for change. And then we have more beyond yoga for the mental realms of things here at Ninth Limb and IMC Nation. Thank you everybody for attending. I think I forgot to record, but I was streaming it. So it's posted on all the platforms that I didn't need to record it. It's great. Thanks everybody for attending. I'll see you the next time. Jai Guru.